I'm a very simple man. I have one house, one car, and one plane. A simple man.
This is Bill Maher, always amazing, always honest and truthful and just noble. And a lot of America thinks he's a left-winger. He likes to give the left-wing perspective of things. We're not starting on Israel. We're starting on Dr. Phil says he was at the border. Down at the border, helping things go straight at the border.
The people who hang on your every word.
I was busy umpiring. I was in Arizona at 112 degrees with border guards figuring out why Venezuelans are coming through the desert. And everybody says they're not.
Can I tell you the answer to this? Because we're America.
Because we're America.
Because we're a shining city on the hill.
Because we're a shining city on the hill.
And of course, everyone's going to want to be here.
Do I even need to describe how stupid that is? Oh, God. Yes, there is an aspect of it that people want to be here, but why do they want to be here? They want to be here because the economy or various other aspects of Venezuela are very tough for some people. Now, would you like to think a little deeper, Bill Maher or Dr. Phil? Would you like to take two brain cells and rub them together for a meeting there, Dr. Phil? Is there any chance that we, the United States, the U.S. government, the people you support, whether it's the Republicans or Democrats, is there a chance that we had any impact on what the economy is like in Venezuela? Could it be that we did, as we sanction every aspect of the Venezuelan economy, as we make sure, as we stole billions of dollars of oil money from them, as we make sure that Venezuela, which sits on the largest oil reserves on the planet, as we make sure they cannot process their oil very effectively or much at all, so that they can't get the money. And then if they can process it, they can't send it anywhere so that they can't make money from it. So the difficulty in Venezuela is due to the United States. So if you wanted to have even an iota of honesty to your viewers, to these people that you speak to, you would give them the background that this is the U.S. doing this, that the U.S. has caused harm to Venezuela. I won't even get into just how many times we've tried to coup them, how many times we've tried to assassinate Maduro. Let's not even get into that. Let's just talk about economics. And Venezuela isn't struggling as much as the U.S. likes to pretend they are. You know, the U.S. will say, hey, no one's had an orange in 3 years in Venezuela or whatever. But it's not saying it's easy there. I'm not saying it's easy. And the reason people may leave Venezuela to come to the U.S. is, A, they believe probably some of the propaganda about how great the U.S. is. It's not. But beyond that, it's because of what we've done to Venezuela. You troglodytes. It's not just because America's the shining on the hill, you idiots. And by the way, no one should call him Dr. Phil. He's not a real doctor. Yes, he got a PhD in psychology or something, which he no longer has a license to practice. So he's not even that anymore. He's not a medical doctor. So just call him D-Bag Phil, all right? He can still have the D at the beginning instead of Dr. Phil. D-Bag Phil. So he goes down to the border to harass Venezuelans that are coming into the country or get upset about Venezuelans coming into the country? Well, why not talk to the U.S. government that's making these people's life hard? Why not that as step one, you idiot? And why does it matter what nation they come from? Oh, it's Venezuelans that came across the border. It's Mexican. Because both these individuals have a brain parasite that eats away rationality and understanding and makes a loud sucking noise. And that brain parasite, I mean, they have multiple, but one of them is called nationalism. And they think that it matters whether it's a Venezuelan coming here or a Mexican or a Haitian coming here. Oh, that's a whole other different thing. And this idiot, Dr. Phil, goes down to the border to show Venezuelans come. Jesus Christ, you sack of human garbage. Okay, let's keep going for a minute.
Can you blame them?
No.
There's porn on the phone, Phil.
I don't blame them for wanting to be here.
I mean, you can order a pizza and jack off before it gets there and never have this leave your hand, except to jack off.
Well, I started to say, how do you do that?
This is adding into the nonsense that, like, there's no other countries that have porn. There's no other countries where you can order a pizza. Like, what are you talking about? What the hell goes on in your little heads? Just such nonsense.
But I do like perspective, and the perspective on the world is America is still the biggest swinging dick.
America is still the biggest swinging dick.
It just is. I mean, it's just a reason why people want to be here.
Bill Maher likes to say that. Now, the U.S. is obviously still very powerful in the world, but what exactly are we the biggest swinging dick at? Okay, we got the biggest military because we spend $1 trillion a year on it. But is that why people want to be here? Because we have the biggest military? No. Yeah, that means we might be the most ruthless killers around the world. But is that something to brag about? Because it sounds like Bill Maher's kind of bragging. Okay, so outside of largest military, we're not the largest economy anymore, although we're the closest. But if you're talking about just large economies, a lot of that's built on extraction. It's built on extracting other people's lives. So you have one of the largest economies based on the fact that we can extract all of these products and goods and everything from everywhere else in the world and steal some of it. Some of it we just pressure people into giving us for pennies on the dollar, etc. Does that make us awesome? But then there's other ways to talk. Oh, we're the biggest swinging dick. Are we the happiest country? Nope. Are we the most peaceful country? Nope. Are we the most equal country? Nope. Are we the most free country? No. In fact, we've got the largest prison state in the world. So we're actually the least free country. Per capita and actually sheer number, the least people are free in America than in other countries. So do we have the most home ownership? No. Do we have the least poverty? No. Do we have the most rich people? Maybe we're up there in that regard, but that number of rich people is a 0.1% or something. So, of extreme rich, extreme wealth. Like, is that what we're celebrating? What is it we're celebrating again here, Bill? What exactly is it we're celebrating? If you think this is already too out of touch, multi-millionaires, just you wait. Just you wait.
And these aren't people that we elected.
No. I live in California, sweetheart. Don't tell me about regulations.
Yeah, tell me.
I mean, well, just a personal story. In this thing that you say is such a Shangri-La, I'm a very simple man. I have one house, one car, and one plane. A simple man.
A simple man.
Okay.
As he's laughing, meaning he knows what he's saying is fucking ridiculous. But he continues with it anyway, as if it weren't. He continues along this train of thought. He is a simple man. He has one house, one car, and one plane. He's got his own goddamn plane, and he's a simple man. But as you'll see, and I know he's laughing about it, but as you see, they go to continue to talk as if they are somehow in touch with reality, which as you'll see, they are not.
So when I bought this house, it had a 3-car garage. Well, memo to the people who built this house. That was never a 3-car garage. Unless you were driving little Japanese cars or something.
Scramblers.
It's just...
That is relatable. These two people, multimillionaires with plastic surgery, yanking back their faces so hard they can't open their eyes. These two idiots. Bill Maher is complaining that his 3-car garage only fits 2 cars. Oh, what a poor little man. That garage is bigger than the average person's house, okay? If it fit 2 cars, it was bigger than most people's houses. It was also bigger than every apartment of anyone living around most of the world. So here he is whining that his 2-car garage, they said it was a 3-car garage. It did 3 cars. It
wasn't. So at some point I was like, this is a 2-car garage. Just to change that over, 3 inspections. I should have no inspections. I can't fix my garage door without the state of California getting involved.
But for this to be, can you imagine what most people around the world right now are upset about? They're upset they don't have food. They're upset they've got to be sexually assaulted at their job and yet keep their job because if they don't, they won't have a job and then they won't be able to feed their kids. And Bill Maher spends a segment of this show to bitch and moan about changes to his garage door so it fits 2 cars. And I don't even know what the fuck he's talking about, but it's just pathetic. There might as well be a banner across this show. We are rich, out of touch, utter douchebags. And in the following sentence, he claims to be, in touch and moral as he defends Israel, which we'll get to in a moment. Then, to talk about why is there regulation on changing I agree. There probably shouldn't be, but why is it there? There's possibly a reason, but I agree. There is too much regulation, but there's no way to relate to one sentence that Bill Maher maybe ever says. All right, let's get to his excellent views on Hamas.
When you take a strong position,
right,
you're going to piss off half the people.
You have to make judgments.
You're going to piss off half the people. And I've been very critical of some of our elite universities that have allowed these pro-Hamas demonstrations.
Did you catch that? Pro-Hamas. That's right. If you stand up against genocide, you're pro-Hamas. Doesn't matter that there's a genocide going on. Doesn't matter that 200,000 people have been murdered. Doesn't matter that they're bombing children, that you're watching them burn alive on TV. None of that matters. Dr. Phil's upset that these universities are allowing pro-Hamas protests.
And their failure to teach critical thinking.
Yeah. That's a failure to think critically if you're against genocide. You really, you need to become educated enough to be pro-genocide is what you people need.
And I've been very outspoken about that. And
Good.
I've had a lot of death threats.
Well, we're eye to eye on that one,
over
brother.
that. I just
People shouldn't give you death threats, Dr. Phil, but also it'd be a good idea not to support genocide, huh? You think? You think?
can't. I'm
Time-
hearing things on these campuses I never thought I would hear in my lifetime.
Death to America.
Death to America.
I mean,
And obviously, anything that is said by anyone at a protest goes for everyone at the protest. That's right. So if you're at a Black Lives Matter protest and someone has a sign that says, I probably can't say it on here without getting censored. So I'll say their sign says, bleep all cops. Well, that means everybody, 10,000 people at that protest all agree with the same thing. Is that true? Or could it be that someone has a slightly different opinion? Not to mention there are also all kinds of infiltrators at these protests that intentionally put up vulgar signage so that it taints the whole message of the protest. That's an old tactic. That's nothing new.
I don't understand how these
You don't understand a lot of shit, okay?
universities can turn a deaf ear to that. There's a difference between
They haven't. In fact, they arrested over 1,000 students for their freedom of speech. They also kicked out, I think, well over 1,000 students out of their college for standing up against the genocide. So what was that about a deaf ear?
free speech and inciting people to violence.
Define inciting people to violence. If saying this is a genocide is inciting people to violence, then you don't understand what that means. You idiot.
There's also a difference between terrorism, committing
Which is what Israel's doing.
terrorism like Hamas did on October 7th in
Oh, terrorism is only what Hamas does.
Israel, committing terrorism and retaliating against terrorism.
Oh, okay. So Israel's just retaliating against terrorism. So first of all, that means history began on October 7th, right? Israel did nothing before that day. History, all the world began October 7th. Okay, so that's step one in order to believe his response. Instead, the truth is, there was a long history before that in which Israel was assassinating journalists, medics, bombing buildings, killing children. The leader of Hamas that they killed today spent 20 years being tortured in a prison by Israel. So that means October 7th, I guess, was a response to terrorism. So Bill, you're saying that it's fine what happened on October 7th? Well, that's really unlike you. No, he wants you to believe history began October 7th. But then beyond that, even if history did begin October 7th, there was no history of the world until then, and there was terrorism on October 7th. Let's ignore the Hannibal Directive. Let's ignore how many people the IDF killed on October 7th. Let's say just Hamas killed people. And let's say every most horrible propaganda thing about October 7th was absolutely true. Does that mean Israel gets to kill people forever, all of them forever, just ethnic cleansing? It's fine because of October 7th? Because that's what he just said. He said there's a difference between October 7th and response to it. So response to it can apparently be whatever. It could be a nuclear bomb in Gaza. Why not? Why not? That's a response to terrorism, right? This is absolutely illogical and immoral, morally bankrupt as far as you can imagine.
The Israelis don't commit terrorist acts.
Israelis don't commit terrorist attacks. Literally, Israel just violated every international law by committing a terror attack across Lebanon that blew up devices in people's pockets, killing children, nurses, doctors, maiming thousands. It is by definition terrorism. And I'm not the only one saying that. There are many others, including the ICJ is saying that Netanyahu is an arrest warrant for war crimes. But no, apparently Israel doesn't commit terrorism, even though the Knesset, the parliament in Israel, was voting whether it was okay to RAPE prisoners. So that's not terrorism or torture or any of those things. And by the way, they voted it's fine.
Kill terrorists, yes. And other people are going to get killed in that process because that's what happens in a war.
Other people are going to get killed. Way to pacify this. Way to put this in passive voice. Other people are going to get killed.
But the fact that the left is so many of them are so morally confused about this conflict You know, they blew up the
He calls others morally confused. I mean, these two are some of the most despicable, disgusting human beings I think that exist in mainstream media. They don't just put out the Israeli propaganda, they then chastise those who stand up against genocide as being morally confused. It is so utterly repulsive.
I'm sure you saw this. They blew up the Hezbollah fighters with pagers this week, right?
Yeah.
They made the It's hard not to laugh, and I don't care. I'm happy to laugh at it.
And I don't care. I'm happy to laugh at it.
He finds it so funny, but of course, he's ignoring the fact that 9 people died. Of those, at least one child, but I think it was multiple children. Of those that died, at least 1 or 2 were nurses or doctors. Of the thousands that were injured, you're talking about many children having their eyes blown out. This is what he's laughing at. This is what he finds hilarious.
We're so sad that their heroes in Hamas got their dick blown off. Like,
that's not at all what people felt. People felt it was a terror attack, which it was. Even Leon Panetta, former head of the CIA, said it was a terror attack. Bill Maher is out of line. He's more right-wing than the former Secretary of Defense, former head of the CIA. Like, that's how right-wing this lunatic is, and yet he's passed off on American media as somehow liberal or somehow left-wing. All right, I'm only doing one more segment before I hang myself, but...
When you're retaliating against terrorists that did what they did and then ran over there and hid in a daycare center or hid in a hospital, that is not the moral equivalent of what they did when they came over there and did what they did on October 7th.
of course,
And anybody that equates one with the other is at the most base level of morality that you can possibly be. It's like you don't know the difference between blame and responsibility.
he's saying you are completely immoral if you think it's not okay to kill 42,000 people. And I'm not including famine and disease right now. 42,000 is just under the bombs. He's saying you are morally bankrupt if you do not think it's fine to kill 42,000 people. 70% women and children. And about 45% of them, 50% of them are just children. You know, this whole some people are going to die. Well, let's look at how some people are going to die. In modern warfare, the average percentage of deaths that are children is 6 to 8%. 8% is high because in average warfare, you're aiming at someone and you're normally aiming at adults. In Gaza, it's 45, 50% because Israel is not aiming at adults. They're aiming at everyone. And D-Bag Phil is one of the most morally repulsive human beings I've ever heard to claim that those who are against genocide are morally confused and not able to think this through. It's pathetic. It's just wildly pathetic.
If that chair breaks right now, are you to blame for it? No, you weren't abusing the chair. Are you involved? Are you responsible? Yeah, you were sitting in it, so you had involvement, but that...
Wow, this is like your dog trying to figure out a math equation. What the fuck is going on here? Jesus. Yeah, October 7th was just like sitting in that chair. What? Or is genocide like sitting in the chair? Is the chair genocide? The hell are you talking about? I think some of that Botox has gone straight to your head. Oh, that's actually where it has gone, yeah.
Doesn't mean that there was intent. Those people came over there and killed infants in their cribs. I've seen the cribs. I've been there in the rooms. I've seen it happen. I've seen footage from the IDF.
And I hope many of you already know this. No, he couldn't have seen that because it doesn't exist. Even Israel has said that one baby died on October 7th. One baby was shot in crossfire. That's Israel's list of victims on October 7th. One baby. So what are these shooting kids in the orphanage? What the fuck is he talking about? These people are out of their minds. But also he says that he talked to a first responder. He says he went to the Nova Music Festival site. Of course, he didn't ask where all the cars are that they've shredded and buried in an undisclosed location. He didn't ask that because that's not important. He went to the site and he talked to a first responder who was there. He doesn't say what organization, but I'll bet you the organization was Zaka. Zaka is this ridiculous propaganda, Israeli propaganda organization who have admitted that they made up much of what they said about that happened on October 7th. They've admitted much of that. They also are not actually trained as EMTs at all, even though they are often the first on the scene. In general, they just get rid of all the bodies and fuck everything up so that no one could ever analyze what actually went down. That's probably who Dr. Phil talked to. These are two of the most disgusting human beings I've ever seen. I don't know what other way to put it. And anyone who thinks at this point that Bill Maher is still a left-winger, you have lost your mind. You are completely ill-informed. Like, what is he left-wing on? Only place where people try to say he's left-wing is he says vote for Biden instead of Trump. But Biden is not left-wing. And so saying vote for Biden is not left-wing either. Anyway, this is American media. This is what the dying empire vomits up all over the place, is these type of personalities. Covered in face-stretched Botox, sitting in mansions, complaining about their private jet and the fact that their garage only holds 2 cars. Meanwhile, telling America what to think. Unbelievable.